Hoodwood. I'm the Black Bandit KJ Green, welcoming you to another edition of Sports with Hoodwood. Coming up in this edition are the Bucks and Sixers NBA teams that are already in trouble. We ain't even hit Thanksgiving. The college football playoff poll is out. Why do I have problems with where they're lined up already and people beefing about it? Are Ohtani, Aaron Judge already MLB MVP locks? Have those topics, plus Week 11 NFL picks. Hoodwood Hot 5, big shakeup in that one. Phat dab head slap. Final word for the wood. Bombs, bunch of hot takes and topics. Now if he says they're hot topics at clothing store, it's just Sports with Hoodwood. Put your crash helmet on, buckle your seatbelts, get locked and loaded. Sports with Hood coming at you. Let's go.
You're tuned in to Sports from the Hoodwood, the internet's foremost location for the most honest, unfiltered commentary and insight on the world of sports. Now, once again, here's Hoodwood's hometown hero, KJ Green.
Greetings from Hoodwood, where I have no idea why Snuffy wants to talk about a clothing store. Hoodwood Top Topics. I'm being silly. I'm your man KJ Green, welcoming you back to another edition of Sports from the Hoodwood. Let's get started by talking basketball. I know I alluded to it last time we were together, but I really want to start talking about basketball. I was talking to my auntie just a couple of days ago. She's a big Pro Hoops fan. I think she's still kind of lukewarm on the whole NBA Cup thing, but she wanted to know, why are the Sixers so bad? I mean, Joel Embiid has played one game, and he looked all the bit rusty in the game against the Knicks. As we're taping the show, they took another frightful beating at the hands of the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are still unbeaten as this show goes to tape. But the Sixers are a team in trouble already. They're 2-9. Joel Embiid has played one game. Paul George has played no games. This team was supposed to be among the NBA's elite, and they've stumbled out of the gate so badly, you wonder, will the damage be done so irreparable that they may not be able to climb out of the hole? The problem is just as big in Milwaukee. The Bucks have stumbled out of the gate. There's been internal fighting. Many people think Doc Rivers may be in job jeopardy before Christmas. Giannis Antetokounmpo is not happy. He is not happy with the coaching. Darvin Ham, Doc Rivers' top lieutenant, has been backbiting and sniping. The Bucks were supposed to be another elite team in the East. This is a team that cannot afford to stumble out of the gate badly. Everybody knows the juggernaut you've got in Boston. The Cleveland Cavaliers have quietly pushed themselves to the forefront and are demanding respect with a 13-0 start. And we can't forget about the Knicks. Knicks are going to be a tough team this year. Can we forget about the team down in Miami? Any team with Jimmy Butler is going to be a dangerous squad. If the Celtics and Bucks start very slow, these teams are going to run away from them. And you're not going to get a real chance to take these teams on without a serious disadvantage in the playoffs. We're not even talking about the NBA Cup. We're talking about regular season games in November and December that could decide what is going to happen in March and April. The Celtics are not a team to take lightly. The Sixers need to get their acts together, and fast. The Bucks, I don't understand why it seems that Doc Rivers, once a respected coach, is having so much trouble. Come on, jiggle that. Make sure that comes back on. That didn't work. Anyway, my earpiece is falling out. Anywho, I'm going to cut that. The Celtics and the Bucks were supposed to be... Why do I keep saying the Celtics? Try it again. The Sixers and the Bucks were supposed to be two of the NBA's up-and-coming teams. Or I should say power brokers. Especially with the Sixers acquiring Paul George, this was supposed to be a team that was supposed to be dangerous all the way around. Paul George has yet to play this season. Joel Embiid doesn't want to play back-to-backs. It's November, for crying out loud. And yes, Joel Embiid is going to be somebody I'm going to lay on. Someone with that much talent, MVP caliber talent, should not be sitting out games this early talking about load management. Load management? Are you serious? The Sixers and the Bucks better get their act together fast. In Milwaukee, with the oodles of talent they have there, with Dame Lillard, who is obviously disgruntled, and Giannis Antetokounmpo not being a happy camper, and you want to keep the Greek Freak happy. If these two teams don't get it together, they're going to be in trouble. You know, I'm looking at the college football rankings, the playoff rankings on my iPad, and I was trying to figure out what the big deal is. I mean, SEC honks like Paul Feinbaum, and I'm still trying to figure out, why is Paul Feinbaum's opinion, why does it matter? Why does anybody really care what this dude wants to say? I mean, yeah, I know he has this incredibly big base of fans, call-in show during the afternoons. Most of these people are Auburn or Alabama or Georgia or LSU honks that are whining that their team isn't in the top 4 or top 10 of the college football rankings. That teams from Oregon or Ohio State, that they would dare be ahead of their beloved SEC teams. If SEC honk had his way, the 12-team college football playoff would be 10 or 12 SEC teams. No, I would say 11 SEC teams and one team like Ohio State or Oregon that they could all hate on because they weren't in the SEC. Looking at the rankings, and I'll show them to you here, it's one of those things where I'm looking at it, and of course you have Oregon, you know, the usual suspects, Oregon, Ohio State, 1 and 2, as they should be. Texas was pushed up very nicely to 3. Indiana, which I think gets criminally little respect, 10-0, they're ranked 5th. BYU, Big 12 leaders, also unbeaten. These are the teams that are supposed to be in the top 6. And it gets a little murkier. Tennessee, Notre Dame, Miami, who took a big loss to Georgia Tech, but they're still the ACC leaders. So they're still going to be further up in the top 4 because they're the ACC leaders. Then you have Alabama, Ole Miss, and Georgia rounding out the top 12 respectively. If you listen to SEC honks like Paul Feinbaum, this is criminal. This is a travesty. The SEC should have 6 teams. No, they shouldn't. I covered this last week. Do the SEC have fine quality teams that are represented in the top 10? Of course. Texas, Tennessee, 2 great teams that could be playing each other in the SEC championship. Could that be an eliminator game? I don't know. But Georgia has 2 losses. Alabama has 2 losses. Mississippi, Ole Miss, has 2 losses. Heather Dinich of ESPN said that 3 losses should not be an automatic disqualifier for the CFP. Why? Why not? I don't care how strong the SEC is. Let them cannibalize one another. The strongest rise to the top, and the weaker teams, or the also-rans, if you will, shuffle them off to bowls. Better luck next year. But if a 3-loss team from the SEC gets in. Because they're from the SEC, the CFP is a fraud. Let's just call a spade a spade. I like the SEC. I got no real problem with the conference. I have a problem with their fans thinking that, because they have all this money, they're on TV all the time, that they have notable names, that instantly gets them a pass to get more teams in the college football playoff. Does the SEC winner deserve to go? Of course. Can you see 2 teams getting in the SEC from the SEC? Yeah. Say Tennessee and Texas. Could you make a case for a 3rd team, possibly? Not a 2-loss team. But there are a plethora of 2-loss teams that are out there. And one of them is more than likely going to skate. This Tennessee-Georgia game next week, this coming Saturday, I feel is an elimination game. Loser might have to go out. My biggest problem with the CFP isn't that the number of teams that are in it, because like I said, I like 12. But do not weight one conference over another because of name. Because that's all you're going by. Bama isn't that good. They've skated by on wins. Tennessee is decent. Georgia is decent. Are they national championship caliber? No. Let's take a time out. Come back. We'll talk about the MVP talk in both NL and AL. Is it Shohei and Judge already on bond? We have other topics to discuss. Of course, we're coming right back at you after this.
Is today your last day on Earth because you are being deployed to space tomorrow? Have you just turned 18 and you're ready to get out of your parents' house? Has your granddaughter gotten her boyfriend pregnant? Whatever your reason, you need us at GottaGetMarriedNow.com. We specialize in last-minute weddings. Active duty, military veterans and retired discounts are available. Visit us at GottaGetMarriedNow.com.
You're tuned in to Sports from the Hoodwood, the internet's premier destination for no-nonsense commentary, thorough analysis, and logical insight on the world of sports. Now here's the man that Wikipedia and Google call for sports fact checks, your host, KJ Green.
You're back in the Hoodwood. I'm KJ Green. I was looking over some stats regarding the extraordinarily massive seasons by Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani, who I think should be unquestioned most valuable players in their respective leagues. Aaron Judge had a .322 batting average, 58 home runs, 144 RBIs for the AL pennant winning Yankees, even though he did very little in the postseason. Shohei Ohtani, for his part, I did not know that he would be the first primarily DH playing to win the most valuable player. I was pretty sure that Don Baylor had won Most Valuable Player in 1979 as a primarily designated hitter, but I looked it up and found he played most of his games in right field. Ohtani, 54 home runs, 130 RBIs, 59 stolen bases, first member of the 50-50 club, and of course the Dodgers winning the World Series in 5 games. Are there any other players, any players in the National League that you would think would be anywhere close to being most valuable player? I mean, you have players like Matt Chapman of the Giants, Francisco Lindor of the Mets, Ketel Marte of the Diamondbacks, Ellie De La Cruz of the Reds. Good players all, but you're not going to have the same kind of numbers that Ohtani put up in the National League. I mean, his numbers were obscene. Let's just call a spade a spade. His numbers, and I'm pulling this stuff up on my iPad as I'm running. Yes, he had to forgive me. But in the American League, you have Bobby Witt Jr., maybe. You can contend with that. Maybe Gunnar Henderson. I mean, all these guys, WAR numbers wise, you're going to have great numbers, but do they stack up to Aaron Judge? Juan Soto, his teammate, Aaron Judge's teammate on the Yankees, may be the only one that you would even say close to being the kind of numbers that position players that Aaron Judge had. And I'm looking at the numbers. That's why I keep going back and forth. But I'm looking at my iPad. I'm going, okay, find me someone that if you are trying to say most valuable player, the numbers, just the raw numbers, even the stat geeks that like the wins above replacement as a position player, Judge is head and shoulders above Bobby Witt, 10-8 to 9-4. When it comes to Shohei Ohtani, the numbers are even more obscene. I'm showing you the statistics here, but Ohtani has the kind of numbers that are generationally obscene. It's just stuff like that. I'm looking at the numbers and I'm going, find me someone who's anywhere close to Shohei Ohtani in the numbers that he put up. If you want to go with WAR, Ohtani leads Chapman 9-2 to 7-1. I'm showing this here. But it's, to me, I'm looking at the numbers. Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, most valuable players. If these picks aren't unanimous, something wrong. Okay, I didn't want to, but I'm going to talk about it. The white elephant in the room of sporting right now, Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul, Friday night in Dallas. Now, I was not going to talk about it. I was thinking, this is a farce. I personally want Mike Tyson to knock Jake Paul's head clean off. I think Jake Paul is a rabble-rouser. I think he's noisy. I think he's just an idiot. But this fight has garnered so much hype that I'm going to have to talk a little bit about it. The numbers, I'll put it in front of you. Paul being 10-1, Mike Tyson, the legendary fighter from the Catskills, 50-6. But he hasn't fought in almost 20 years. 20 years! But if you watch him training and he looks fierce, but then you have somebody that you're fighting against that is 30 years your junior. And the way the fight is supposed to be set up, 8 2-minute, not 3-minute, 2-minute rounds with 14-ounce gloves. Big gloves. Most gloves are either 8 or 10 ounces. Light, more fist. But this is going to be a little bit unorthodox, if you will. Jake Paul is a YouTuber turned UFC fighter turned traditional fighter. I don't really know. The undercard looks really, really good. I mean, the fight between Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano for the WBA, WBC, IBF, WBO ring and lightweight championships. That's the feature bout. That's the fight that a lot of people should be talking about. But it's not the main event. Now, there are some other fights on the card, but to tell the honest truth, everybody wants to see Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. Jake Paul's done a lot of talking. Mike Tyson's done a little bit of talking. But when these two guys get in the ring Friday night, hopefully this podcast will be on long before this fight is, all the talking will stop, and then we will see what kind of, if this is going to be a real fight or if it's going to be a farce. I, for one, think Jake Paul is going to get on a bicycle and dance around the ring for 1 minute and 40 seconds and then try to hit him with a flurry of punches, like Ray Leonard did to Marvin Hagler in 1987. To this day, Marvin Hagler went to his great reward. The late, great, marvelous Marvin Hagler went to his great reward believing he beat Ray Leonard. I refuse to call Ray Leonard Sugar Ray. Only Sugar Ray was Sugar Ray Robinson. Me being a bit of a boxing historian myself, but Ray Leonard didn't beat marvelous Marvin Hagler. I refuse to believe that. He charmed the judges with dancing and running, and then the last 30 seconds of the fight, of each round, throwing a flurry of punches. Most of them weren't really doing any effect. I get the feeling Jake Paul is going to do the same thing. He's going to get on a bicycle and run from Tyson for a minute 30, minute 40 seconds, and then try to throw a quick bunch of flurry punches to try to stay out of Tyson's way. And do this for 8 rounds. Jake Paul and Mike Tyson are looking to split somewhere in the neighborhood of $60 million. This could be one of the biggest viewed fights in boxing history. And it's not really a fight. Jake Paul is 30 years Mike Tyson's junior. My kid, Princess Katie, is older than Jake Paul. Okay? Most of Mike Tyson's greatest fights happened before Jake Paul was even thought of. But they're going to get in the ring and fight. Allegedly. Fight. The concept of it boggles the mind. It really does. And the boxing historian in me wants Tyson to catch him with one of those legendary uppercuts and knock him clean out his socks. But I don't think it's going to happen. It's going to probably be an 8-round farce that's going to leave everybody wondering what happened. Good thing it's not one of those $49.95 pay-per-view things, because people would be mad. Take a time out. Let's come back with the Week 11 NFL picks. Did all right in Week 10. I didn't have a 12-win week. Only got 8 wins right. But try to get better. Sports from Hoodwood comes back at you after this. Hi everyone, I'm KJ Green. If you're looking to reach a broad audience
You're tuned in to Sports from the Hoodwood, the internet's foremost location for the most honest insight, thorough analysis, and unfiltered opinion on the world of sports. Now, once again, here's the man of the hour, After Hours, your host, KJ Green.
You are back in the Hoodwood. My name is KJ Green, and let's get into the Week 11 NFL picks. Now, I knew the good times wouldn't last, though it wasn't a losing week, went 8-6, my run of double-digit winning streaks being snapped at 4. Nevertheless, it was a winning week, and I will continue to endeavor to improve. So, I humbly submit to you the Week 11 picks for your perusal, review, and approval. Lines are provided by ESPN Bet for comparison and entertainment purposes only. If you bet the Lions and lose, that's on you. Too close to Thanksgiving to be blowing big money on bets. But if you choose to do so and take that L, call your bookies, square it up, and don't go calling your folks, or me for that matter, trying to get some fundage to get turkey and trimmings. You'll get no sympathy from me. Now, the 3-7 Panthers, who defeated the 2-8 Giants 20-17 in overtime, the 6-4 Cardinals, who defeated the Jets 31-6, and the 4-6 Buccaneers, who lost to the 49ers 23-20, are on their respective byes this week. You can also check the fine website at 506sports.com for a full and detailed coverage map of the games being shown in your area. All times reported are Eastern Standard Time. Start with the games of Sunday, November 17th. Week 11 of the NFL season has the 6-3 Packers taking on the 4-5 Bears at Soldier Field in Chicago. 1 o'clock kickoff on Fox. The Packers are 5.5-point favorites. Last week, the Packers were on their bye, while the Bears lost to the Patriots 19-3. I have two fast facts for this game. For the Green Bay side, they've won the last 10 meetings and 15 of the last 16. While on the Bears side, they have not scored a touchdown in 8 quarters. Now, the rest of the Packers head south to face their ancient rivals who played terribly against a weak opponent. Now, the Packers aren't the dominant team of years past, but they are light years ahead of the Bears, who regress badly on offense. And though their defense is decent, they're getting worn out for being on the field way too much. Caleb Williams is struggling to be certain, and rumors of team infighting and an imminent collapse abound. The Packers will be benefactors of this dysfunction. The pick here is Green Bay. Next on the docket, we have the 2-7 Browns taking on the 3-7 Saints at Caesars Superdome in New Orleans. 1 p.m. kickoff on Fox. The Saints are favored by a single point. Last week, the Browns were on their bye, while the Saints defeated the Falcons 20-17. Fast fact here is both teams have lost 4 of their last 5, but their lone wins in that stretch being a home win against their respective division leaders. Go figure. Coming off their bye, the Browns head to the Big Easy to tangle with the equally woebegone Saints. The Browns' offense is the definition of inconsistent, while the Saints' offense is just plain bad, though they are coming off an impressive division upset of the Falcons. Now, this game will only be shown in Ohio and Louisiana and the Gulf Coast areas, leading them to wonder what they did to deserve having to watch such putrid football, making me really glad I have Sunday ticket. The pick is New Orleans. Next on the docket, we have the 2-7 Raiders taking on the 3-6 Dolphins at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, Florida. 1 p.m. kickoff on CBS. The Dolphins are 7-point favorites. Last week, the Raiders were on their bye, and the Dolphins defeated their Rams 23-15. Fast fact here is the Dolphins' win will be their 500th in franchise history. They currently stand at 499, 405, and 4. Now, the Raiders are supposedly rested and head east to face a Dolphins team coming off a short week after beating the Rams on Monday night in L.A. Now, I think this might be a close game considering the Dolphins are on a short turnaround, but the Dolphins are playing better with Tua Tagovailoa. Though I always will worry about their poor boy safety. Hope he doesn't get any kind of another concussion. Now, the Raiders are a Western team headed east for an early start, so you already know what I think about that. They are already a mess at quarterback, and it just goes downhill from there. The pick here is Miami. Next on the docket, we have the 7-2 Vikings taking on the 2-7 Titans at Nissan Stadium in Nashville. 1 p.m. kickoff on CBS. The Vikings are 5.5-point favorites. Last week, the Vikings defeated the Jaguars 12-7, while the Titans lost to the Chargers 27-17. Now, the fast fact here is the Vikings are the first team since the 1970 merger to win a game despite scoring no touchdowns and having 5 turnovers. Now, the Vikings offense went up and down the field in Jacksonville, but they didn't get in the end zone. Now, one would think scoring 4 field goals and turning the ball over 5 times would lead to a one-sided loss. But the Vikings were playing the Jaguars. And the hapless opponent couldn't get the ball in the end zone but once themselves. So the Vikings didn't suffer their first ever loss in Duval. They stay in the Mid-South to face a Titans team that is equally woeful as the Jags. Can't see the Titans defense being that opportunistic or the Vikings offense making that many mistakes. They got the yards but kept stalling out in the red zone. Now, the Titans offense, for their part, will likely get trampled on by the Vikings' blitz-heavy defensive package. The pick is Minnesota. Next on the docket, we have the 7-3 Ravens taking on the 7-2 Steelers at Acrisure Stadium in Pittsburgh. 1 o'clock kickoff on CBS. The Ravens are 3-point favorites. Last week, the Ravens defeated the Bengals 35-34, while the Steelers defeated the Commanders 27-24. Fast fact, Ravens running back Derrick Henry leads the NFL in rushing yards with 1,120. No other running back has 1,000 as of this taping. Though Saquon Barkley is closing on 1,000 himself, no one has over 1,100. One of the better matchups of the early slate, these two bitter rivals square off with divisional control on the line. Lamar Jackson was his usual brilliant self in a wild shootout win over the Bengals, but Russell Wilson is showing flashes of his brilliance from his halcyon days in Seattle. This game will come down to whose defense is more on point. Now, to be honest, Baltimore's defense can be had, and unless the Ravens shorten the game with the brilliant running of Derrick Henry and quit leaving their defense on the field too much, they might be able to pull out the win. Though leaving their defense on the field could be a bit hazardous. Now I'll take the chance and say that Henry's running makes the difference and the Ravens escape with a narrow win. The pick is Baltimore. Next on the docket, we have the 2-8 Jaguars taking on the 8-1 Lions at Ford Field in Detroit. 1 p.m. kickoff on CBS. The Lions are 13.5-point favorites. That is not a misprint that I'm reading. They are favored by that much. Last week, the Jaguars lost to the Vikings 12-7, while the Lions defeated the Texans 26-23. Fast fact here is the Lions on defense have gotten at least 1 interception in every game this season. This game screams trap. I'm sorry, Detroit fans. The setup's just all wrong. The Lions, after an emotional come-from-behind win in Houston on national TV on Sunday night, facing the putrid Jags, is a massive come-down. This Jags defense can play sneaky good as they frustrated the Vikings, holding them to just 12 points. That said, Jared Goff is way overdue for a bounce-back game. And if he has Amon-Ra St. Brown in his sights, it will be a long afternoon for the Jags. That's why I'm feeling confident making Detroit the lock of the week. Next on the docket, we have the 4-5 Rams taking on the 3-7 Patriots at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts. 1 o'clock kickoff on Fox. The Rams are 1-point favorites. Last week, the Rams lost to the Dolphins 23-15, while the Patriots defeated the Bears 19-3. Fast fact, the Rams, being based in LA, have not won in Foxborough since 1989. The Rams played awful in a puzzling home loss to the Dolphins and now have to go cross country for a visit to Foxborough. Last time the Rams came to Foxborough, they were throttled by the Tom Brady-led Pats. But that was 8 years ago, and a lot has changed, and I mean a lot. The Rams should be able to navigate the Pats' leaky defense, though said defense did play capably on the road in handling the Bears their first home loss of the season. The Rams, however, have a much better quarterback in Matthew Stafford, and he will be the difference, as will Kyren Williams. The pick here is the Los Angeles Rams. Let's take a time out, come back with the rest of the Week 11 slates. Sports on the Hoodwood comes back at you after this.
Is today today your last day on Earth because you are being deployed to space tomorrow? Have you just turned 18 and you're ready to get out of your parents' house? Has your granddaughter gotten her boyfriend pregnant? Whatever your reason, you need us at GottaGetMarriedNow.com. We specialize in last-minute weddings. Active duty, military veterans and retired discounts are available. Visit us at GottaGetMarriedNow.com.
You are tuned in to Sports from the Hoodwood, the internet's foremost location for opinion, analysis, and insight on the world of sports. Here now is the man banned from sports trivia contests in 38 states and 4 Canadian provinces, and not to mention Guam. Your host, KJ Green.
Now let's continue on with the Week 11 picks. The last of the early games is the 4-6 Colts taking on the 3-7 Jets at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. 1 o'clock kickoff on CBS. This was flex from the primetime slot. The Jets 4-point favorites. Last week, the Colts lost to the Bills 30-20, while the Jets lost to the Cardinals 31-6. Fast fact, the winner of the past 4 matchups have scored 40 or more points. Now, both teams come in off of poor efforts and losses to divisional leaders. The Colts will once again turn to Anthony Richardson for the ineffective Joe Flacco, and the Jets keep wondering when their quarterback will become Aaron Rodgers. Colts have the offensive pieces but lack consistency. Against a scuffling Jets team, they will suddenly look competent and competitive. The pick here is Indianapolis. Turning to the late games, we have the 6-4 Falcons taking on the 5-5 Broncos at Empower Field at Mile High in Denver. 4:05 kickoff on Fox. The Broncos are 2.5-point favorites. Last week, the Falcons lost to the Saints 20-17, while the Broncos lost to the Chiefs 16-14. Fast fact, the Broncos have held opponents to under 20 points in 7 of their 10 games. Both teams come in off of tough losses of very winnable games. The Falcons have to wonder if Kirk Cousins will be a full go for this week with shoulder and elbow ailments. The Broncos, for their part, sport a tough defense, but an offense having to deal with Bo Nix's growing pains. I think the Falcons can grind out a solid run game behind Bijan Robinson against a tough Broncos defense to get an ugly but needed win. Pick here's Atlanta. Next on the docket, we have the 4-5 Seahawks taking on the 5-4 49ers at Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara, California. 4:05 kickoff on Fox. The 49ers are 6.5-point favorites. Last week, the Seahawks were on their bye, while the 49ers defeated the Buccaneers 23-20. Fast fact, here the 49ers have won each of the last 6 meetings, their 2022 playoff meeting included, and are gunning for their 3rd straight season sweep. Both of these teams are trying to stay on the playoff fringes, with Seahawks coming in rested off of their bye and the Niners gutting out a needed win in Tampa. With the return of Christian McCaffrey, the Niners' offense looks a lot better, though they still have a myriad of injured players to sift through. Seahawks, for their part, need this win badly, though their offenses play decently. Their inconsistent defensive play is becoming more and more of a liability. Hard to pick against home team here, so I won't. Pick here San Francisco. Next on the docket is the 9-0 Chiefs taking on the 8-2 Bills at Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park, New York. 4:25 kickoff on CBS. This is a nationally televised game. Put it on CBS. No matter where you're at, you will get this game in the late afternoon. The Bills are 2-point favorites. Last week, the Chiefs defeated the Broncos 16-14, while the Bills defeated the Colts 30-20. Fast fact is the Chiefs have not allowed 28 or more points in 30 straight games. This is a showdown so big, CBS protected it from being flexed a month ago. The two biggest of big kahunas in the AFC square off in a showdown of massive proportions. Now the Chiefs keep dodging bullet after bullet and winning their first 9 games and needed a fortuitous block of a last-second field goal to hold off the Broncos at home. Meanwhile, the Bills have been on a tear of their own, winning their last 5. This will be a tight, tough game, much like their epic showdowns of years past. Now the Chiefs have been on a roll, but I think the Bills at home are super tough. It will be a close game to be sure, but I think the Josh Allen-led Bills are looking to prove something here, and the Chiefs are way overdue to play one of those puzzling effort games that gets them beat. That's why I'm confident, and I'm making Buffalo Hoodwood upset of the week. Turning to the Sunday night game, we have the 4-6 Bengals taking on the 6-4 Chargers at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. 8:20 kickoff on Peacock. This game was flexed to prime time from the 4:25 CBS slot. The Chargers are 1.5-point favorites. Last week, the Bengals lost to the Ravens 35-34, while the Chargers defeated the Titans 27-17. Fast fact, this is the Bengals' first visit to SoFi Stadium, and since losing the Super Bowl 56 in February 2022 to the Rams, and this is their first ever regular season visit to this venue. Everybody's favorite primetime visitor makes its second primetime appearance in 10 days. Fresh off of a painful loss to their despised divisional rivals, the Bengals head west to face a Chargers team that is hard to figure, as their record has been fattened up with wins over weak teams. Now, the Bengals are an elite team, to be sure, but their offense is dangerous enough to put up the points. Facing a Chargers squad that has given up the fewest points in the league, this poses a real challenge. I have no trust in either team, to be sure. I'll just flip a coin and probably be sorry I did. The pick is Cincinnati. Finally, the Monday night game has the 6-4 Texans taking on the 3-6 Cowboys at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. 8:15 kickoff on ESPN. Texans are 7.5-point favorites. Last week, the Texans lost to the Lions 26-23, while the Cowboys lost to the Eagles 34-6. Fast fact is the Texans have never won in Dallas. They are 0-3. Now, the Texans blew a massive lead at home and lost at the gun to Detroit. Meanwhile, the Pokes got turned every which way but loose in taking an awful beating by the Eagles at home to continue their downward spiral. Now, the Texans could very well right their ship, facing a Dallas defense that scares no one and a team that sports a laughably weak offense to boot. The Texans as a franchise have never won in Dallas, as I've noted earlier. So far this season, neither have the Cowboys, and I see no real reason to think that the latter trend doesn't continue this week. The pick here is Houston, and there you have it. Last week it went 8-6. The lock was correct and the upset incorrect. Overall, I'm 99-55. Square on the locks, 5-5. I'm 3-7 on upsets. Let's take our final timeout. Come back with the Hoodwood Hot 5, Phat Dap and Head Slap, and the final word from the Wood. Sports from the Hoodwood heads down the home stretch after this.
Sports from the Hoodwood, the internet's foremost location for no-nonsense commentary, insight, and opinions on the world of sports. Here now live in living color, black by popular demand, your host, KJ Green.
Rounding third and headed for home here in the Hoodwood, we'll finish up strong with the Hoodwood Hot 5, Phat Dap, Head Slap, and the final word from the wood. Let's start out with the Hoodwood Hot 5, the college football top 5 teams. Not necessarily the 1 through 5 that are in the college football playoff, but the 5 best teams that I think are the best in America. We'll start out with number 5, a new team in the top 5, BYU, making its debut in the Hoodwood Hot 5. They defeated Utah 22-21 and will take on Kansas next week out in Provo, 10:15 start on ESPN. Our number 4 ranked team are the Indiana Hoosiers, who are 10-0, also making their debut in the Hoodwood Hot 5. They defeated Michigan 20-15. They are idle next week before their big showdown with the Ohio State Buckeyes for what may be for a berth in the Big Ten championship game before their annual rivalry game with Purdue for the Old Oaken Bucket, which they should be heavy favorites to win. But Indiana Hoosiers right now unbeaten and have an inside track for a college football playoff spot. They're ranked number 4 in our Hoodwood Hot 5. Our number 3 ranked team is the Texas Longhorns. Out of the SEC, they were ranked 4th in the last ranking that we had of the top 5 teams in America. They defeated Florida 49-17, and their next game is at Arkansas, an old Southwest Conference battle. Now they're both in the Southeast Conference. That's a noon kickoff on ABC, 11 a.m. out there in Fayetteville. Our number 2 ranked team is the Ohio State Buckeyes. They stay steady at the number 2 ranking that they had on our last poll. They defeated Purdue 45-0. Their next game was against Northwestern, and that's a noon kickoff on Big Ten Network. And, of course, our number 1 team, still number 1 of our last poll. They are still the number 1 team in the country, as well as in our poll, the Oregon Ducks, who are 10-0. They defeated Maryland 39-18. They have a big test out in Madison, taking on the Wisconsin Badgers at 7:30 kickoff on NBC. Dropping out of the Hoodwood Hot 5, Miami lost to Georgia Tech 28-23, and Georgia lost to Ole Miss 28-10. The former still in very much control of the ACC title and a college football playoff berth. Georgia may need some help to get into the SEC title game as well as a college football playoff berth. That's my Hot 5. What's yours? And now turning to the Phat Dap and Head Slap of the Week. Our Phat Dap of the Week goes to Baltimore Ravens running back Derrick Henry, who bought 465 coats, each one for each student at Curtis Bay Elementary School in Baltimore. Derrick Henry, fine football player, and even better human being. A generous donation, making sure each one of those students has a winter coat. It's a beautiful thing, man. I love it. Phat Dap to a great human being. It's a great gesture. Our Head Slap of the Week goes to the state of Florida. The state of Florida football. Not just Florida State, who had their brains beaten in by Notre Dame, but the University of Florida, who lost to Texas, as mentioned earlier. Central Florida lost. South Florida lost. Florida Atlantic lost. Florida International lost. The University of Miami lost. Even the FCS teams, Stetson lost. Florida A&M lost. Bethune-Cookman lost in 5 overtimes, but they lost. The losing extended to the pro teams. Jacksonville lost to the Vikings. the Tampa Bay Buccaneers lost to the San Francisco 49ers. The only team in the state of Florida, whether it's FCS, FBS, or the NFL, that did not lose were the Miami Dolphins. Probably because they weren't in the state of Florida. They beat the Los Angeles Rams 23-15. Head slap to the state of Florida football. What happened? And now, without much further ado, let's go to the final word from the Wood. You know, there was a time when college football and basketball players were bound to a team for years. I wouldn't call it indentured servitude. A player would commit to a school, sit out their freshman year, and then play 3 years with a team. More often than not, the player would wait around until their junior year to play, working their way into their starting lineup, and then hope to be an impact player by their senior year. It was rare when a player made an impact in their sophomore year, and even rare for a player to leave school to go pro. Now, Spencer Haywood's landmark court case freed him to ply his trade in the pros before his class graduated. Now, this was something that NFL players weren't able to do, or I should say collegiate players weren't able to do, declare for the NFL draft until the mid-'80s when hardship rules were first made in effect. And now football players still have to wait 3 years or be 3 years removed from their high school graduation before they can declare for the NFL draft. The point here being that at one point in time, college football players and college basketball players had less freedom and control. They committed to a school and stayed there. If they wanted to transfer, they had to sit out a season before going to another school. Since the NCAA has liberalized transfer rules within the transfer portal, players can declare their intentions and go to what school they want to, often jumping from school to school. The recruiting of players has continued heavy into their college years, and it's not uncommon for smaller schools to get their top players poached by higher tier collegiate programs. It's almost like the higher money MLB teams using poor teams as de facto farm and developmental teams. Now factor in NIL deals, name, image, and likeness, and collegiate sports has turned into the wild, wild west. Now don't get me wrong, I like for players to get their money. I like watching players do ads. I went to the grocery store just not too long ago and saw a collegiate player on a bag of chips. I don't mind players getting their money. It's a great thing. I still think the NCAA is exploiting their labor and making millions in football and in basketball. To call it semi-pro, I think is a bit of a travesty. You have these wonks that talk about, the NIL is ruining the game and transfer portal is ruining the game. It wasn't a problem when coaches are jumping, coaches making 6- and 7-figure shoe deals, and looking out for their best interests. If a player wants to move from school to school, as coaches have been able to do for years and years, does this make it a bad thing? I don't think so. I think that there should still be standardized rules for transferring. The ability to transfer and how many times a player can transfer. You get one free. After that, you do have to sit out a year. Now, there's, of course, special circumstances. Team goes on probation, coach leaves, that sort of thing. Then a player can be free to move. But if they burn their transfer, they should not be able to move as freely. NIL deals and the transfer portal have made collegiate athletics the wild, wild west. But it's a free market. Capitalism. It's a beautiful thing. Not quite so much when your favorite player in your collegiate team goes to the highest bidder. Something to think about. And that is the final word from the Wood. Now, with the music coming up in the background, you know that means that your time here in the Hoodwood is just about done, and I thank you so much for your visit. Now, the show's email is kjgreen@sportsfromthehoodwood.com. Please send me emails regarding show topics, both past and future, questions, comments on the show, and both praise and criticism. I welcome your correspondence and will try to get back with you in a timely manner. Now, the show's website is sportsfromthehoodwood.com and has a back catalog of the show dating back 12 years in both audio and video forms. So you can check that out if there are shows that you may have missed. You can join the debate and conversation on the Sports from the Hoodwood page on Facebook, which also has the video podcast simulcast, as well as other topics, funny stuff that I find on the web, and I find a lot of stuff that'll make you laugh. Plenty of great sports debate and lots more. I post often and I respond to member posts frequently. We have a lot of great contributors, and you can be one too by joining the page. The video versions are also on YouTube. Please hit that subscribe button and smash that like button for more great content. Now, the link to the podcast is also on the show's tribal feed at Hoodwood Sports, and has a host of other interesting stuff to find there. You can hit me up about the show, and we do hit you back. Follow and like there as well. Now, the audio version is on Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Samsung Podcast, Apple Podcast, and a host of other fine podcast platforms and providers. Hey, if the Hoodwood is not on your favorite, ask for it. Drop me a line and I'll see what I can do to get it there. Someone asked about iHeartRadio just a few weeks ago, and we're now on iHeartRadio, and we're there strong. As always, special thanks to Rage Pictures for providing production assistance. So that's it from the Hoodwood, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Until next time, fellow sports fans, I'm merely Bev's son, AJ Green.
Sports from the Hoodwood
is a Black Bandit Productions and Enterprises presentation
of a 551 Audio and Films production.